So we are at the last section of the canto, Canto 14, the World Soul, section 77. We had started that thing last time. This is one of the most marvelous kind of revelation we have in the spiritual literature. Every detail is spelled out, and the importance of the World Soul is something which we do not understand in the scheme of evolutionary manifestation. Why it is there, why should be there, and what is its role. It is a kind of a bright link between the lower and the upper. It is definitely in the lower, but it is a bright link between the lower and the upper. World Soul, Satyavati, Sukhavati, the Buddhists call it Sukhavati, Elysium, Paradise, whatever you want to call it like that, you see. Immersed in voiceless internatal trance between birth and birth. So, the assertion is that there is rebirth. It is a part of spiritual necessity that you have to be reborn. It is not just an idea, it is not just a philosophy, it is not just a speculation, it is not just a kind of a metaphysical proposition. It is a spiritual occult necessity that you have to go. In that sense, the role of death becomes extremely significant. You cannot go out of this world unless there is death, so to say. And why there is a death? Because whatever had to be done in this life, in your spiritual pursuit, in a spiritual quest, whatever you have gained kind of gets saturated. Asymptotically it becomes flat and you kind of stop making further progress in that line. Therefore, it is necessary that to continue beyond that, you terminate this process and restart from a different level altogether, you see. So that way, internatal trance is the place where whatever you have accumulated in this present life, the merit, the punya, the virtues, whatever you have accumulated, spiritual virtues, of course, spiritual virtues, spiritual merit, the richness of your growth of the soul, all that is a part of your soul and nobody can snatch it away at all. No death, nobody can, not even a God can snatch it away. It is entirely your property. But then you have to keep on building layer upon layer on that. In order that that happens, you kind of terminate your present existence, go assimilate all the experiences of the present life and then prepare for the next birth. Prepare. You deliberately prepare the next birth. In fact, you plan where to be born, how to be born, what to do. Everything is kind of then decided by the soul in that internatal trance, in that place where it exists is in the world soul, immersed in voiceless internal trance. The being that once wore forms on earth sat there in shining chambers of spiritual sleep. Spiritual sleep, it is a sleep. It is also kind of a withdrawn consciousness into the supreme state of awareness, of knowledge. Withdrawn. Pradnya, sushupti, sleep is sushupti. Means you grow into pradnya consciousness, into comprehending consciousness there. You assimilate all your experiences of the present life and then use those experiences to take new birth. Obviously, this is meant for very advanced souls. It is not that every soul will go to that place and do that thing. Maybe a part of it will happen, but those who had done sadhana, who had done tapasya, who have accumulated spiritual virtues, spiritual qualities, spiritual richnesses, it is for them it becomes a necessity thing. For most of the persons, most of the souls, it is not like that. Maybe to some extent it goes there, stays there for a while and comes back, you see. Actually, the mother gives very long, elaborate descriptions of what happens when you pass away after the death. Of course, the physical is left behind, then the subtle physical is also left behind, then the vital goes to the vital world, the mental goes to the mental world. Means all the elements which are present in you, they are kind of dispersed to their respective places. The mental goes to the mental world, the vital goes to the vital world. So when you come back, you accumulate, you gather your mental from that place and then take birth. When you come back, then again you gather your vital which has become rich enough and then you come back like that. So you build up in that manner. But those who had done spiritual sadhana, tapasya, for them, they prepare their next birth. And normally, for them, the birth does not occur immediately. Maybe it takes 100 years, 1,000 years, 500 years, like that. Even 2,000 years sometime. He does not come immediately back to this earth. The Siddhas, they don't come back immediately. They assimilate, they see whether the situation is ready for them here to come back, you see. And then they decide. They decide the spot, they decide the parents, they decide the surroundings, and then they take birth in that place, you completely see. Now, that is normally what happens. Sukhavati of the Tibetan Buddhism, this intermittent trance is Sukhavati of the Tibetan Buddhism. The abode, the blessed, into which ascend those who have accumulated much merit by the practice of virtues. Virtues, what we call as punya. The English terminology is punya, P-U-N-Y-A, punya. Now, Mahayana of Buddhism leads to nirvana. Mahayana Buddhism leads to, it is a big vessel, big path, Mahayana to nirvana. Hinayana, the lower one, leads to Sukhavati, to this place. So, nirvana is definitely a state which is of a different kind than the state of Sukhavati. You are still in the lower world here, Sukhavati. You have accumulated certain merit and then you assimilate it. Nirvana, in the way Sri Aurobindo presents to us, is remove of all that is inconscient in us and discard it completely. So you become freer and freer of inconscient elements within you. Ultimately, the complete elimination of the inconscience within you at every level. Inconscience, not only in the physical, in the vital, in the mental, everywhere, in the entire hierarchy of ignorance. Whatever belongs in conscience, that has to go away. And that is the real sense of nirvana. And that is in fact the foundation for the true life, transformed life which can come here. Unless the inconscience is removed, how can there be transformation? The real sense of transformation. So the necessity of nirvana is definitely there in the upper spiritual path. And Sri Aurobindo says that although historically Buddha came after Krishna, historically Buddha came after about 500 BC and Krishna maybe around 3000 BC. You see. So there is a gap of 2500 years between the two. You see. He says that the work of Krishna actually begins after the work of Buddha. As far as the work of Krishna is concerned, it comes after the work of Buddha. Although historically Buddha came later than Krishna, you see. That you see. Sukhavati, that is what he says now. Now, the being that once wore forms on earth, well, we can make our own wild conjectures and say who could these be. Of course, the great rishis, the great saints, the great mystics, they belong to that category. They belong to Pythagoras. He was definitely that. Dante, they are definitely that kind of people, silly that. They were the people who belong to that category. I made a fanciful list. Ancient rishis, Vivekananda, of course, one of them. Vivekananda himself was the incarnation of Shiva. He was the Vibhuti of Shiva, you see. He was Shiva. Shankaracharya, he was also Shiva. Then in our own ashram, we can say Amruta. He must have it definitely there, Amruta. Pavitra, Nalini, Dyuman, Champaklal, possibly Madhav, possibly Kapali Shastri, Purani, Sunil, the musician, the beings that once bore forms on earth. See, that is the whole thing. The being, yes.
All the people you mentioned from the ashram, all the disciple people you mentioned from the ashram were connected to Shiva?
Well, I mean, rather.
No, just clarify.
You see, I mean, you can see, for instance, in the case of Pavitra, the mother says that the way in which he was pouring himself into me, at the time of his passing away, he was draining himself out completely into me. That kind of a thing she said she had never seen when he was alive, but at the time he was complete. So these are the people who are now in that beings that once wore forms. Amruta has a great history behind him. He was Moses, he was Victor Hugo, he has a great history behind him. So these people, see, from now you can imagine from Moses down below, down like that. So means they take hundreds, thousands of years like that in between, you see, to come back. Amruta.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, Moses was 2000, no? Earlier, 3000.
He was Moses. Amruta was
When
Moses.
Moses lived, I don't know.
Shivananda himself has said that. Amruta was.
3,000 years before?
No, I have no idea.
More than 2,000 years.
Okay, you see. So, Purani, in the case of Purani, the mother says that when he passed away, Purani, she speaks very highly about him. His mind went straight to Sri Aurobindo. His mind went straight to Sri Aurobindo, see. He was so much connected. See, I mean, they were talking with each other like friends. Purani and Sri Aurobindo, the way they were sitting and all that. He is Sri Aurobindo room, he is stretching his legs and talking to him. So, and whenever there was some kind of clarification required about Sanskrit words, Sanskrit vocabulary, Sanskrit terminology, Sri Aurobindo used to consult Purani. Sri Aurobindo used to consult Purani. In fact, the psychic being, it is Sri Aurobindo asked what could be the equivalent of that thing in Sanskrit. And then Sri Aurobindo, then Purani said that it could be Chaitya Purusha. Psychic being Chaitya Purusha. Chaitya Purusha is not a very common word at all, you see. But see, I mean, that thing is there, see, like that. So these people have identified themselves so much with them. They are Champaklal, of course, you know how he has poured himself all that completely. So I have made a kind of a fanciful list here. And I would beg pardon if I missed others, you see. But it's all right, you see. Now, actually, in the Greek tradition, the mystic and philosopher Empedocles. He says that at the top of the human scale are the prophets. All the prophets, the minstrels and the physicians at the top of the human scale. The prophets, the minstrels, the physicians. Prophets, in the way the Greek understood, the Jews understood prophet in that sense, prophets, the minstrels and physicians. Their next step upward, all these prophets, their next step upward is to the divine sharing the hearth and table of the gods. Sharing the hearth and table of the gods. So these prophets, all these things, what is the next thing? Sharing the table and hearth of the gods. So they are dining with God directly, you see. That is what Empedocles says. So you see, that kind of a little knowledge, that intuition was there in the ancient people also. In the Indian tradition, this is quite there, very much there, you see. Same way, in the case of Paradiso, Dante says, beings in Dante's Paradiso are awaiting the will of God. They are awaiting the will of God. So it is a very high state, this international space, trance, it is a very high state. The beings in that region are awaiting the will of God. And then there is of course a famous line, in your will is our peace. In your will is our peace. So that is what the Dante says, the Paradise Lost is saying. Beings of, so this is there, being that once more forms on earth sat there. Sat there means because they are in a trance. They are not kind of active. In other words, there is no real progress or accumulation of further virtue there. Whatever you have gained, you store it, you remain it, you assimilate on that thing. You cannot increase there. Increase of your virtue is possible only here on earth, in this birth. So this birth is a very precious thing. It is an opportunity for you to spiritually grow and accumulate more and more of spiritual richness. That is the occasion for the spiritual richness. Open out your psychic being, open out your spiritual possibilities, open out something beyond that. That is the kind of a sadhana one has to keep on constantly doing. In shining chambers of spiritual sleep, shining, so they are kind of drawn, absorbed in the prajna consciousness, passed with the pillar post of birth and death. So the difficulties of birth and birth, that is all gone, because they are now sitting there in the trance. Past was there, little scene of symbol deeds. Past were the heavens and hells of the long road. They had returned into the world's deep soul. They, those beings, they had returned. Pirik, I am into talking the worlds. I am deep soul, Spondi. All now was gathered into pregnant rest. This is pregnant rest. Person and nature suffered a slumber change. Person and nature. Person, the psychic being, patient, persistent. Person, a person is persistent. Well, we come to that, you see. Person and nature suffered a slumber change. In trance, they get back their bygone self. See, so they are there, they are assimilating the experiences of the present life and then going to decide on the basis of that what to do next. In trance, they gathered back their bygone self. In a background, memory is forcing mule. Background memory is forcing mule. So that memory of the life is there, and on that background, they are going to plan what? Prophetic of new personality. What new kind of person should be there, prophetic of new personality, arrange the map of their coming destinies, goal, the future line of growth or spiritual development. They are planning there. They gathered back their bygone selves in a background, memories, posing views, prophetic of new personality, arrange the map of their coming destinies, goals, heirs of their past, their futures, discoverers. So they have accumulated the past, that is their asset. The past is their asset, all that gone, and they are the discoverers of the future. They are going to plan what kind of new possibilities of the spirit will open out for them. They are futures discoverers, electors of their own self-chosen lot. So these people, these Siddhas, have that will of their own what to do next, what kind of birth should be taken. See, it is not moksha or go into Swarga or live in paradise. That is not the end of it. Ultimately, it is the soul that decides what am I going to do. See, soul had come here with a certain purpose. If you have attained moksha or freedom or liberty from here, it does not mean that the mission of the soul is complete. You go to Vaikuntha or you go to Kailasha or you live in paradise or live in heaven, that is not the end of your journey. That is not the end of your journey. A person persistent through the lapse of world, a person persistent through the lapse of world, person persistent. Now that reminds of that is a phrase which belongs to the Rigvedic description, the immortal in the mortal, the immortal in the mortal. Agni is the immortal in the mortal. Person, Agni, the psychic being, he is the one who persists, who continues. He does not die. No weapon can cleave him. Water cannot wet him. Wind cannot blow him out. He is like that, you see. Person persistent. Nainam chantanti shastrani. No weapon, no sword can kill him, you see. He persists there. That is the psychic being, you see. A person persistent through the lapse of world, although the same forever, in many shapes. You see, it is the your psychic being is your property. And it remains entirely the same thing. It grows, but does not mean that it becomes somebody else's. Its own quality, in its own way it grows. A person persistent, although the same, forever in many shapes, by the outward mind, unrecognizable, obviously, assuming names unknown in unknown climes. So you don't know what you are in your past birth. You have forgotten your names. You have forgotten your past lives. You have forgotten everything like that, you see. Assuming names unknown in unknown clime. I don't know, for instance, Amrita himself knew that he was Moses, that he was Victor Hugo. He would not. It is mother, it is Shivandu who had told him. It is Shivandu who had told him. He would not. So he did not know that he was Moses, you see, at one time. Assuming names unknown in unknown clime. See, he has come here from his childhood. At a very young age, he was here around in a Brahmin family, South Indian Brahmin family, and then he was attracted, and then he was slowly drawn in. So that is the kind of preparation which is there. But it is not an accident. It is kind of arranged that he takes birth here, it happens this way, it happens that way. All those things are there. Durai Swami Iyer, he was the great lawyer of Madras High Court in those days, and it is he who had carried the Christ mission, Shivandu's Christ mission to Delhi at that time. He was, Shivandu says, Chandragupta Maurya, the great emperor of the Maurya dynasty, Chandragupta Maurya. So he does not remember, he does not know, but he is there. Sri says he was Chandragupta Maurya, you see, at that time, you see. So names unknown climb. So he was somewhere there, Moses he was there, now he has come to South India and living here, you see. Imprint of time upon the earth's world page, a growing figure of its secret self, a growing figure of its secret self. So its own secret self is there, the psychic being is growing, expanding all the, and learns by experience what the spirit knew. So that is the important difference. He learns by experience. This person, persistent, learns by experience. But the spirit, who is eternal, he knows everything already. In other words, the participation of this immortal is to grow, to expand, to learn. Spirit knows everything already, but that knowledge of the spirit is of a kind of a useless knowledge, unless it grows, expands like that, you see. A growing figure of a secret and learns by experience what the spirit knew, till it can see the truth alive and God, till it can see its truth. It, that person, persistent, psychic being, till it can see its truth alive and God. Means it sees both. First it sees its own truth and then it sees God. It can see its truth and it can grow as God. Once more, they must face the problem game of birth. Yes, you have come here for a certain purpose. You were curious of the shadow cast by yourself into this darkness and you wanted to find out what the shadow is for, and you had taken the birth here. And now you are kind of trapped and you have to grow. You can't help it, you see. Once more, they must face the problem game of birth. Problem game of birth. What is the problem game of birth? The problem of inconscience, the problem of ignorance, the problem of falsehood, the problem of death, the problem of suffering. These are the problems. They must face them again, you see. They are the problems, you see. That problem game of birth. Now, they are not there for nothing, because that is the only way by which the inconscience can be gradually changed, can be slowly changed. In fact, this person persistent, this immortal, this psychic being is the alchemic agent to transmute nature, to transmute Prakriti, to bring about a change in Prakriti. It is only the psychic being which can help, because psychic being is in contact with the reality and is in contact with what is here also. The soul's experiment of joy and grief, problem game, that is the joy and grief, for both of them are there, and thought and impulse, lighting the blind and venture on the roads of circumstance through inner movement and external scene, traveling to self across the forms of things, traveling to self across the forms of things. That is what this person persistent is doing. He is the journey leader. He is the traveler of the world. He is the discoverer of the spirit's possibilities in this existence here. Journey leader. He is of course your friend. He is of course your guide also. He is traveling to self. So he is traveling to Atman, self, across the forms of things. Into creation center he had come. Into creation center he had come. He, Ashapati. Ashapati has come into creation. What is the creation center? World soul. The world soul is the creation center. World soul is the creation center. And Ashapati has come into this creation center, because it is from here that the creation really begins now. Before we proceed further, the soul's experiments of joy and grief, I will refer to two conversations of the mother One is Collected Verse of the Mother, Volume 6, page 46 onward. Volume 6, page 46 onward. And the second is Volume 7, 86, page 86 and 87. Soul's experiment of joy and grief is what we are doing. Soul's experience of joy and grief. This is very revealing. Mother has given every little detail in those talks, in those two talks. By the way, when I was looking at these two Conversations of the Mother, Volume 6, page 46, Volume 7, page 86, they are dated exactly mid-March. Both of them in mid-March, you see. And we are in mid-March, you see. We are in mid-March, exactly. There you are. So I was a little amused with that, you see. Now she says, she is talking about the fear of death. I will just read some of these passages, you see. It's good to know them. Fear of death. Is fear the only cause of death? Is fear the only cause of death? The answer to her answer is no. Fear is not really the cause of death. The cause of death is something else. You stop making progress, and that leads to death. It is necessary. Is fear the cause of death? No. To conquer death, begin not fearing it. If you want to conquer death, don't be afraid of death. To conquer death, begin not fearing it. One dies only when one consents to die. Without your consent, Yama cannot take away your soul. Yama cannot take away your soul. You have to finally give the consent. In fact, unless you get consent, you won't die at all. So it depends upon how strong you are in your consent, you see. We have got in Savitri say, Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri, lean down my soul and kiss me while I die. While I die. He has given his consent. He has given his consent. Now, Yama can take away his soul. Not until then, you see. That consent is required. You have to give the consent. So, in a certain sense, in a way you are speaking, every death is a kind of your suicide. You are consenting to die. It is your suicide. You are committing suicide. Every death is a kind of a suicide, you see. If you are strong enough, that question would not arise. Consent to die. Actually, there is a famous episode in the Mahabharata. Bhishma was the great warrior. Pitamaha, he was the father figure in the Mahabharata. And everybody respected him. Bhishma, strong will, firm will, and he will never deviate from his path at all, you see. Now, he was the general of the army on the first day, on the part of Kauravas. He was the leader of the army at that time. He was the full commander of the army at that time. And at the end of the day, he was killed. He was killed at the end of the day by an arrow, you see. But then he refused to die. He refused to die, Bhishma. So they say that all the arrows which were hit around him, his body was lying on those arrows for several months. He refused to die because he said that I will die only when the sun starts moving from the south to the north. What is called the Uttarayana. I will die only during the period of Uttarayana. Uttarayana, death in Uttarayana means you really reach the high station of life, you see, high station. Uttarayana, Uttara, northward, upward. So when the sun starts moving from the south to the north, well, it will start happening shortly now. 21st of March it will start happening. Uttarayana will begin. So you have got, means the sun going from north to the south is called Dakshinayana. Moving to the south, Dakshinayana. The sun moving from south to the north is called Uttarayana. So you'll have shortly Uttarayana beginning, you see. And then he says, the auspicious thing about the Uttarayana is, if you die in the Uttarayana, you reach a high place in the occult world. So he had that will and he refused to die, and his soul could not be taken away. When began the Uttarayana, then he abandoned his body. He consented and then he died, you see. So that consent is required on the part of the divine himself. Then only he die, you see. So actually this is a very great thing. Very great thing. It happened in the case of my grandmother also. To give a little episode, you see, she was a very strong lady, very firm lady in her character, and very strong-willed also. Now, there are certain days on which you observe complete fast, what we call Ekadashi, the 11th day of the fortnight. Ekadashi. See, the fortnight is divided into 15 days. So, 11th day is called Ekadashi, means the 11th day. On that day, traditionally, people observe fast. Now, she was almost dying. Her pulse had become extremely weak and all that. She was about to die. But then she said, no, I won't die on Ekadashi day. I won't die on Ekadashi. She said that, I will not die on Ekadashi. And then, when that period of Ekadashi was over, then she said, yes, you can give me something to eat now. She was given something to eat. She was so conscious at that time. She was given something to eat at that time. And then I said, now I can die. I can leave the body. I can leave the body. It happened. Like that. So, unless you get consent, you won't die, you see. It depends how strong you are. So, determined by the physical. Now, there are different layers of determinism of death. Death determined by the physical determinism. Death determined by the vital determinism. Death determined by the mental determinism. So all the vital, physical, mental determinism play the role in the operation of death. Determinism can be abolished. The conditions change and are pushed back. If you cannot bring higher determinism, you can change nothing. You can change. You see, physical determinism, you are governed by the physical laws, mechanical laws, vital, emotional laws. Why fear of death? Why fear of death? Influence of adverse forces. Fear is the influence of adverse forces. You are governed by adverse forces. Fear is a phenomenon of unconsciousness. A phenomenon of unconsciousness. Anguish coming from ignorance. You are fearing coming from ignorance. The body is a terribly unconscious thing, and therefore there is a fear. Actually, the moment you touch a fire, you kind of repel back. there is a fear that will hurt you, see. But if you are really conscious, fully conscious, you can walk through the fire also, you see, properly. Body will not be affected. See. Entering consciously into death while one is still alive. That is the important thing. Entering consciously into death while one is still alive. That is exactly what happened in the case of Sri Aurobindo. He entered consciously into death. So there is no death really. In order to see the reality of death, he consciously entered into death with all the supramental power and light and force in him. He entered into death and conquered death that way, see. Entering consciously while one is still alive. Well, in the case of the mother, we can't say exactly that, but she said that ultimately, Lord, whatever you will, succor to will, succor to will. What thou willest, O Lord, what thou willest, O Lord. That is the condition she had achieved. Consciously she is saying, Lord, you are there to decide everything for me. What greater surrender can there be than that, you see? What is the domain of death? Let us read again another passage of life. Domain of death, reigning the most material vital. Death, where does it exist? In the most material vital. Not so much in the mental, but in the physical and in the vital. That is the domain of death. Obviously, because when life entered into matter, the material objects called for light and light responded to the call. But the moment she entered into material objects, sprang up death. Sprang up death. The response to the entry of life in matter from the inconscience to throw the figure of death up, you see. So the material and vital is the domain of death completely, you see. So if you are able to really purify it, conquer it, make it strong enough, then you are free of death also, you see. Now, in the other case, let me read a passage again from the mother's other quotation I told you. Volume 7, page 86-87. It all depends absolutely on the condition one dies. She of course says that if the links are broken, one dies between the subtle physical and the soul. If the link is snapped, then you die. Actually, that is also about to happen in the case of the mother. When she was in trance with Theon, you see, this link was completely broken practically. But then there was the divine hand behind her and she was saved. It all depends absolutely on the condition one dies and on the resolution of the psychic being. At the moment of death, one has the intense aspiration to return to continue your work. You want to continue work on Savitri. If you got an intense aspiration to continue work on, and if you remember that thing, if you are holding on to that thing firmly at the moment of death, then when you come back, you start Savitri work again. You start Savitri work again. Return to continue his work. Then the conditions are arranged for it to be done. So at that moment of death, if you think that you had to really come back to be with Savitri again, all the conditions get arranged. What are the conditions to get arranged? You had taken a new birth, you had to know good English, to reach Savitri. You had to learn all the scriptures, you had to do all those things. So those conditions kind of get arranged for you. You are born in a place where those atmospheres are present, you see. And then you continue your work, you see. So if you want to continue Savitri, then remember Savitri, and then you will be born in such a way that maybe you are not an Englishman, but you will have sufficient mastery over English language to enter with the spirit of Savitri. That is important, you see. Return. There are people for whom the psychic return to the psychic domain, obviously what we are saying is to assimilate the experience and to prepare their future life. They prepare their future life according. If you think that you have to write poetry, you have to do compose music, you have to do painting and all that thing, if you have got intense aspiration at the time of your death, Monet, if he is dying and his association with painting is so strong that I have not really done the true painting, the real painting, he will be born again to resume that kind of a thing. He will continue with that sort of a thing. Poet, same thing, everybody is evolved psychic is nearer to its complete maturity. Evolved psychic is nearer to its complete maturity. The greater the time between the births. Well, if the evolution of the psychic being has taken a long, then between birth and birth, there is a long gap. As I said, it can be 100 years, it can be 1,000. 100 years is nothing actually. It can be 500 years, it can be 1,000 years, it can be even 2,000 years also. They come back after 1,000 years. 2,000 years, the mother says like that. 2,000 years. There is a choice between no longer coming back to earth. If you are sufficiently evolved and all that thing, you can decide, sorry, I don't want to come back at all. There is a choice, no longer coming back to earth, if it finds that its work lies elsewhere. Not on earth, but it has to do some work elsewhere. Well, this is a choice. He is free now from here, from this birth, and he can continue his work elsewhere, you see. From elsewhere, he can help you here, you see. He can influence, he can do certain things from there, instead of he himself coming back here. There is a choice between no longer coming back to earth if it finds that its work lies elsewhere, or if it prefers to remain in the purely psychic consciousness without reincarnating. So it can remain permanently in the psychic consciousness there. Without, it means it has stopped going further. It has stopped going further. Perfectly consciously. And there are those who have united with forces of universal order and with entities of the overmind or elsewhere, who remain all the time in the earth's atmosphere. They continue to remain in the earth's atmosphere. Well, actually, in the case of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, they are in the subtle physical of the earth and doing work there. They have only changed the station from the gross physical to the subtle physical. They are there. Universal order, with their entities of overmind or elsewhere, who remain all the time in the earth atmosphere. Well, there are a lot of beings like that. Even a person like Narad, see, he is in contact with the earth. He comes periodically at crucial moments with the earth and does his work here, you see. A person like Narad is. And
they are there.
Take on. Pardon?
Sorry. They are there in the subtle physical because now, in this moment, it is important to be there.
But for instance, in the case of Narad, he is in the overmind world. And he comes here at crucial moment to help things here on earth, you see. He participates in that way, you see. He undergoes the physical change from the spiritual body, he takes the gross physical body, comes here, does his work and goes back again like that. So there are beings like that all the while. Chiranjiva, as we call them, take on body successfully for the work. It depends on what it chooses. What the psychic being chooses, it entirely depends upon that, you see. It is the choice of the psychic being, you see. So there is no compulsion like that, there is no rule in how. Well, end to creation center he had come. Ashokati, 77.7, you see. The spirit wandering from state to state finds here the silence of his starting point. Silence of his starting point in the formless force and the still fixity, formless force and still fixity and brooding passion of the world of soul. Well, let us read that. The spirits wandering from state to state finds the silence of the starting point in the formless force and still fixity and brood. Still means quiet, firm, fixity, and brooding passion of the world of soul. All that is made and once again unmade. The calm, persistent vision of the One inevitably remakes, it lives anew to gain new experience, to make progress. Forces and lives and beings and ideas are taken into stillness for a while. So all these actions, force, life, being, ideas, everything is taken back to assimilate here. They remove their purpose and their drift, recast their nature and reform their shape. Well, that is the whole idea. Recast their nature, new shape life, make new destiny, like that, you see. Ever they change and changing ever grow. So that change is good. The purpose is to grow constantly. You are not going out of the manifestation. You are still in manifestation and continuing to grow, making spiritual progress. Ever they change and changing ever grow and passing through a fruitful stage of death. Fruitful stage of death. See, that is helping you. All that was coming in the way of your progress, that is knocked off by death. That is knocked off by death completely. So it is really fruitful stage of death. And after long reconstituting sleep, it assumes the place in the process of the God until their work in cosmic time is done. So work continues, that means ever they change and changing ever grow and passing through a fruitful stage of death. Fruitful stage of death. It's a wonderful phrase. The place where the striking being goes after death is existing place. Now, what is the contribution of death? Fruitful stage of death. So, death is removing the obstacles which is coming in your progress. You are not able to make any progress at all. You got kind of stuck, and therefore death knocks out. You can start. Contribution of death for earthly progress. Fruitful stage of death, that is the contribution of death for earthly progress. A fruitful. Now, there is a similar phrase in other places in Savitri. Contribution of death for earthly progress. A fruitful worldwide ignorance. There is a phrase, a fruitful worldwide ignorance, 79.24. Fruitful worldwide ignorance. We'll meet that thing next time, earlier. Worldwide ignorance. Fruitful worldwide ignorance. It is helping you, see. Then 74.39, we have seen earlier, 74.39, a huge created death. A huge created death. 74.39. So, fruitful death, you have 79.24, you have 74.39, you have also 24.5. The fountain of his needed ignorance. Fountain of his needed ignorance, you see. 24.5. So, what a phrase, fruitful stage of death. Only a bold yogi can use such a phrase, you see, who knows everything, that yes, after all, death is a kind of a helper. You got stuck here in order to make progress. Well, at a moment, death is helping you. Death will continue to help you until you go out of ignorance completely. At that moment, the role of death is over. Now, that is exactly what had happened in the case of Satyavan. He had gone through the entire process of life, of evolutionary manifestation, of evolutionary growth, of evolutionary accumulation of merit and all that thing. Now, he found that it was impossible for him to grow any further, make any further progress. Death comes at that point of time, but death comes in the lap of Savitri. And then a totally new birth appears in him. That is the fruitful death. So, death of Satyavan, Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri, lean down my soul and kiss me while I die. That is the fruitful death. That is the fruitful death. You see, he is going to be reborn now in the full divine qualities for his own spiritual growth, for his own manifestation. You see, that is going to happen here. Ever the change and changing ever grow, and passing through a fruitful stage of death. And after long reconstituting sleep, you assimilate all the experiences of the birth. Assimilate, gather them, and then figure out what to do next time, what to do, etc., etc. You make your own design, mold your own destiny. You locate your parents, you locate your place, you locate everything, all the circumstances, and take your birth there. Resume their place in the process of the gods. Now, process of the God. It is not the gods who are going, but the way the gods are working out certain things, you become a participant of that process of the God, of your spiritual growth, of manifestation. Resume the place in the process of the God until their work, their of gods. There stands for God. Until their work in cosmic time is done. So you become a part of the cosmic work the gods are doing here. The gods are doing a certain work in the cosmic functioning, and you become a part of that process. You grow in that way. See. So that is why it becomes a fruitful stage of death. That you are able to participate in the process of God with the help of death. So it is a fruitful death.